arranged by the Mythology and Folklore Club of PDEU, Mithak Shaastra. Our speaker for a day, or should we say our storyteller for the day, is our beloved professor, Dr. Nigam Dave, who is the director of the School of Liberal Studies, PDEU. He holds academic and research experience of 28 years and has been awarded by the honorary rank of Colonel by NCC India.
He teaches subject from a macro approach to the development of academic administration, English literature to leadership and interpersonal skills. And today, we are very happy to have him narrate the tales of Pavan Putra Hanuman, who is an essential part of stories from Indian oral of tradition. After all, this is the essence of our club. Sir, we have heard a lot from the SLS students about your unique way of narrating stories and experiences and making them even more interesting. And we are glad we got a chance to hear from you. Before we move forward with the event, I would like to inform everybody that the feedback form will be shared in the chat box during the event. So I request you all to keep an eye on it. With that, we would like to welcome our speaker, Dr. Nigam Dave. The platform is all yours, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am addressing you as ladies and gentlemen with a dual purpose. One, the students of college, PDEU, all of you, and I'm so very glad to meet students of technology also, because as Muskan was addressing me, as we have heard a lot from SLS students, so it means that there are students from APOET also. So it is always very good to share the platform with the like-minded people. I'm also glad to welcome some of my school friends who studied in school with me. And yesterday when I posted on the social media, they were so very glad to oblige me that they wanted to attend. At the end, I will acknowledge them. Also, some of my colleagues in various universities who have been teaching English and other subjects were also likely to join. Right now, I'm not able to see them, but all of you are very welcome. And today is an auspicious day because today it is Vasant Panchami. So first of all, the greetings of Vasant Panchami to you all, and may Goddess Saraswati, the muse who looks after Vidya, give you all the power and repertoire that is required to be well versed, because today something that we are going to do, the praise of Lord Hanman, Mahabali. He has been frequently attributed with the adjectives which go with Vidya, Buddhi, and Shakti. And therefore, may you all achieve the best of the best knowledge, the best of the best questioning spirit, the best of the best inquisitiveness, and may your all paths of career become very, very successful. On that note, again, it is coincidental, and it is purely coincidental. This request was made to me since quite a long time. Vidhi was chasing me, and somehow during your last month, I could not make it. So this time I said, okay, I will be available. And then coincidentally today it is Saturday. And Saturday is considered to be the day for Lord Hanman. So again, it is a coincidence that we are here narrating the glory of Hanuman. Now the folk tales, those of you who are studying world classics, or those of you who have studied world classics with me, and some of the alumni are also there. We all know that human beings have been fascinated with the concept of storytelling. We all enjoy stories, right? If the storyteller is good, then the stories automatically become very lively in front of us. Unfortunately, we are habituated to television and the easy viewing of Netflix and everything else, so that we are steadily losing our ability to imagine. But if somebody is telling us a story, either orally or if we are reading the story, we need to imagine a lot many things in front of us. And when we imagine, we are a recreator of these stories. So mythology is something that passed from mouth to mouth. And something that passed from mouth to mouth, there would be variations in the same. Many of you know me talking about the mythical archetype and the variations in the mythical archetype. So in the case of Hanman and Ramayana also, it has captured the fancy and imagination of so many people that there are many versions of Ramayana. And therefore, naturally, there are many stories of Hanuman. And they say, Hari Ananta, Hari Katha Ananta, meaning God is multifold, and the stories of gods are even multifold. And it is not possible for a mortal human being like me to do proper justice to the story of Hanuman, because even in Shiv Mahimna Stotra, it is written that Sharada Likita Yadi Gruhitva Sharada Sarvakalam Tadapi Tav Gunanam Isha Param Na Yati. Even Goddess Saraswati, if she wants to narrate your praise, she will not be able to do that. And then I'm a mortal human being. But I have always been fascinated both ways, outside the class, and right now I'm outside the class. So I'm a devout Bhakt of Lord Hanuman. So that way, I have always been fascinated with Lord Hanuman and the Parakram of Hanumanji. But at the same time, as a character also from the poem, the stories that have come about Hanuman, they are so very intriguing, and every line of Chalisa, Hanuman Chalisa, is rich with meaning. So what I would do is I propose to also explain to you some of the lines rather than merely telling you stories, because some of the lines we have been reciting over and over and over again, but without understanding the meaning. It is believed that every line of Hanuman Chalisa is mantratmak. The meaning of the word mantratmak is if you remove any line from Hanuman Chalisa and recite it, let's say Bal Buddhi Vidya Dev Mani Harav Kales Bikar, then that also in itself is a mantra, and that can help people who are in distress, the people who are nervous, people who are in anxiety, people who believe that they have afflictions, either the material afflictions or the spiritual affliction. Then the Mahabali has the power to remove it. And we in India have always believed in the concept of voice culture. Voice culture is something through which, when we recite a mantra properly, we create an aura around us. And this aura, it is that helps. And over the period of my explanation of Chalisa and storytelling to you, I would also tell you that invariably, whenever some Ram Katha is going on, Lord Hanuman visits in some form or other. So we have reasons to believe right now also Lord Hanman is blessing us and is listening to how well we are able to do justice to his stories. So on this note, I request the presenter to open the slide. There's no presentation, so don't worry. I just wanted to show you some of the pictures that do justice to the stories that I'm telling you. Can you make it full? Yes, thank you. So the idea of decoding Hanuman Chalisa and narrating the tales of Mahabali came to me because my father was a professor of Sanskrit, and he had written a long series of explanation of Hanuman Chalisa in one of the newspapers in Bhavnagar. So as a child, I was taken by the fancy of the stories that my father used to tell me, and those were the days of non-television or very less television. So we used to hear a lot of stories from the elders, and that motivated me that why don't I share the stories of Hanumanji with you. Next, please. Can we go to the next?
Just a moment, sir.
No worry. Okay, so I always believe that Hanuman Chalisa is a timeless storehouse of fascination. Why I say, because during the lockdown phase 1 and 2, Alexa, our artificially intelligent agent, was asked by people in India to recite Hanuman Chalisa so very frequently that Alexa got the maximum command in the lockdown phase 1 and 2 to recite Hanuman Chalisa. So Hanuman Chalisa, or the praise of Hanuman, has been in the cultural consciousness of the human beings, and to relate it with people like you, some of the film stars whom you know, like Riya Chakrabarti or Karthik Aryan or even Varun Dhawan and Anupam Kher. All these people have time and again posted about the power of Hanuman Chalisa. And you would be amazed to know that when Gulshan Kumar of T series came up with the rendering of Hanuman Chalisa sung by the famous singer Hariharan, it broke the record of maximum views on YouTube at that time. So the Indian cultural consciousness or the psyche is very mesmerized with the praise of Lord Hanuman. Next, please. Okay, now talking about Hanuman Chalisa, the word Chalisa in itself means the 40 words. But here we do not have only 40 words. We have rather the quatrains, and then we have Doha at the beginning and Doha at the end. So there's an entry before we enter Hanuman Chalisa, and there is an exit once we finish our darshan. So the first stanza that we find in the Hanuman Chalisa, the Doha, is it starts with the invocation of Guru. Many of you know that epics always start with invocation. Even our Hindi cinemas, they start with the invocation. मुद्दई लाख बुरा चाहे क्या होता है वही होता है जो मंजूर खुदा होता है या फिर वक्रतुंड महाकाय. So likewise, it became pertinent for Tulsidas, who is attributed with the rendering of Hanuman Chalisa, to bow down to the Guru. Now, there are various versions of who the Guru for Tulsidas is. The stanza goes like this, that Shri Guru Charan Saroj Raja Nijamana Mukur Sudari Barnau Rakbar Bimal Jasa Jodayak Palachari. Now, who is Shri Guru? And the first word or first letter in itself is Shri. Now, this is symbolic because Shri, according to the Indian mythology, is Lakshmi. And therefore, the first Vandan or Prarthana or the blessing seeking is done to Shri. Now, the word Shri here is used because the form of Ram, who is the master for Lord Hanuman, is also considered to be one of the avatars of Vishnu. And therefore, at the very outset, the correlation between Vishnu and Ram and Lakshmi and Sita is done. So Tulsidas says that I bow down to my Guru, Shri Guru, and the Raja, the dust that emerges from the feet of my Guru, may it clean my Mana Mukur Sudari. Mukur means the mirror. Says the mirror reflects whatever we see, and whatever we see, we become that person. And therefore, in the glory of Raghuveer Ram, it is believed that Tulsidas is attributing this, and then says that please help us to remove all the klesh and vikar from my mind so that I can properly get into the temple of Hanuman Chalisa. Next, please. बुद्धिहीन तनु जानिके सुमिरो पवन कुमार बल बुद्धि विद्या देहु मोहि हरहु कलेश विकार. Now this is what we expect from Lord Hanuman. I mean, all of you, even students, when you start the course, you are always inquisitive to know about the deliverables, the course outcome. So what is the outcome? So what is the outcome of reciting Hanuman Chalisa? So here it is given that I, Nigam Dave, and all of you put together, we are buddhihin in comparison to the mastermind Hanman, and therefore considering us to be little witted, Sumiro Pavan Kumar. Pavan Kumar is the attribute of Lord Hanuman's father, Vayu, Pavan. And then what do we expect from Hanuman? Bala, Buddhi, Vidya, please give to me, and Harahu Kale Sabikar, please remove my all afflictions. Now, if we see, Hanuman is very conspicuously attributed with two traits. At the very outset, in the first stanza in itself, we find that Lord Hanuman is attributed with power and wisdom. Now, merely having power is of no use, because power without wisdom would make a person reckless. And merely having wisdom but not having power, again, would not help because the person would not be able to help himself or others. And therefore, Hanuman over and over again, if we find in Tulsidasa's Ramcharit Manas as well as in Hanuman Chalisa, this word comes again and again. Hanuman attributed with intelligence. So all of us describe Hanuman with power. But Hanuman is not just powerful, he is a very, very intelligent living being also. And I'll come up with stories to prove his intelligence. We find even in Sundarkand, the stanza where it is written, Atulita Baladamam, Hemashallabadeham, Dhanjamanu Kushanam, Jnaninam Agraganyam. He is the wisest of the wise, Jnaninam Agraganyam. And likewise in another stanza, Manojabam Marutatulya Vegam Jitendriyam Buddhimatam Varishtha. Buddhimatam Varishtha. He is super intelligent person. And therefore, it is no wonder that Hanuman becomes the favorite master for Tulsidas. And the character of Hanuman is so very humble, so very selfless. There is a story that once Hanuman, after the victory of Ayodhya, and Ram had settled back in Ayodhya, at that time, Hanuman went to see Sita Mata, and Sita ji was applying sindoor in her forehead. And Hanuman saw it and asked, "Why are you applying this vermilion?" And Sita said that applying this vermilion would help my husband to live longer, so that Ram lives longer. That's a tradition in India that the married women apply sindoor or vermilion. Hanuman thought that if mere rendering of vermilion can prolong the longevity of my master's life, then he went back and came, and Sita ji started laughing. What happened, Hanman? Because Hanman was all smeared with sindoor, red color, vermilion. And Hanuman came and said that, Mata, I saw that if sindoor has the power, vermilion has the power to have the longevity of my master's life, then let me apply sindoor all over my body. So Sita Mata became very happy. And from that time onwards, most of the statues of Hanuman in India is applied sindoor. And also Hanuman is applied oil, because it is believed that Hanuman has the disfigured jaw because Indra had struck the thunderbolt. And he has a problem in walking, and therefore we also apply sindoor, oil, sorry, so that it can be used as a sort of a massage. Okay, so talking about the power, I was talking about power, we talked about intelligence, but we also have many rendering in Sundarkand as well as in Hanuman Chalisa at the very outset when the Vanar Sena had was searching for Sita, and they come across the ocean of Lanka, which is huge, Shatayojan. And therefore they doubt. Angad says, I can go once, but I'm not very sure whether I can come back or not. And Jamvan says that now I'm old and therefore I can also not do that. And at that time, Jamvan reminds Hanuman, because Hanuman had a curse. When Hanuman was young, at that time Hanuman was mischievous. Monkeys are always mischievous. They are all very adventurous. I have seen monkeys jumping from one solar light over the other solar light in PDEU and even uprooting the solar light near D block. So they are very powerful. And Hanuman, when he was young, he was very mischievous. So the rishis had given him a curse that you are very powerful, but unless somebody would remind you about your power, you would not be able to exercise your power. And therefore also Hanuman stays humble. So when they are all deciding at the time, Jamvan, the bear, reminds Hanuman that Pavana Tanaya Bala Pavana Samana Buddhi Viveka Bikhyat Nitana. He reminds that you can do this, and then Hanuman gets triggered to do the task. Next, please. Okay, when we move into the next stanza now, here the etymology of the name comes. Jai Hanuman Gyan Guna Sagar, Jai Kapisa Lok Ujagar, Ram Doot Atulita Baladama, Anjani Putra Pavana Sutanama. Now, what do we understand by the term Hanuman? Because that's the most popular name that we have. Saranpur Hanuman, Bala Hanuman, Camp Hanuman, Dabhoda Hanuman, and various Hanuman, Patal Hanuman, even Tamacha Hanuman. You would be wondering why Tamacha Hanman, because Tamacha Hanman or the slap giving Hanuman The archaeological excavation of that painting in the cave was found in Mahabalipuram, where Hanuman has this gesture of slapping somebody. So the statue of Hanman or the references to Hanuman are spread across other countries also. Indonesia, Malaysia, China, and many countries have references to Hanuman in various forms. So the term Hanuman in Tamil, people speak it as Anuman. And then in the Malay word in Malaysia, it was Handuman. And from Handuman, the term came Andaman. And from Andaman, the Andaman Nicobar that we see today. So if you visit the government website of Andaman Nicobar, then on the home page itself, it is acknowledged that the term name Andaman came from Hanuman. There are many places in Malaysia and Indonesia where the references to Ramayana is there. In fact, there's a place called Langkawi, which is an archipelago in Malaysia, and people believe that it was associated with Lanka. Also, we have the reference in China also of the monkey god. And there's a movie also, wonderful movie and story, Journey to the West, in which Hanuman features with other name. Okay, we also need to understand the term Hanuman can also mean someone who is egoless, man, the fame. Hanuman means somebody who is a very selfless and humble person. That is Hanuman for us. Now here, the story of Hanuman's parents is also given. Because if we read the stanza again, Jai Hanuman Gyan Gun Sagar, Jai Kapis, Kapis we know that is a monkey god, Tihulok Ujagar, Ramadut we also know, Anjani Putra Pavana Suta Nama. Hanuman's mother is mentioned first, Anjana or Anjani, and then Pavana Suta means the Vayuputra. Now there's a story that when Anjana was an Apsara in her previous life, and because she troubled the rishi had given her a curse that you become a monkey woman. There is another version of story also that Gautam Rishi had given a curse to Anjana in her previous life because she did not tell Gautam Rishi about the lack of loyalty of Ahalya, and therefore she became a monkey woman. Now, she had performed long worship of Lord Shiva to get out of this body and to find some relaxation from the curse. And therefore, parallelly at that time, King Dashrath, Ram's father, was performing Putra Kameshti Yagya. So Putra Kameshti Yagya was a yagya in which after if you do the yagya properly, then the god Agni, the god of fire, would emerge from the yagya kund and would give you kheer, the item made from rice and milk. And then if you swallow it, you would be gifted with the children. So the Agni Dev emerges from the fire and gives a pot of kheer to King Dashrath, father of Ram. Now, as we all know, King Dashrath had wives, Kaushalya, Sumitra, and Keikei. So he distributed the portion of kheer. But as he was doing that, suddenly a kite, the bird, came and took the bowl of kheer along with it and started flying. Now, when the kite was flying nearby Kishkinda, where Kesari and Anjana was living, at that time Vayu, Pavandev, guided the kite and guided the bowl of kheer into the lap of Anjana. She swallowed, and that's how Hanuman is born. So this establishes the connection of Hanuman with Ram even before they meet in Kishkinda, and also it establishes the story of why, in spite of having Kesari as father, he is attributed with the birth given by Vayuputra. Now, this also makes Hanuman connected with Bhim, because we also know that Kunti through Vayu had Bhim, and Bhim is Mahaparakrami, and Hanuman is also Mahaparakrami. But there is a difference. Hanuman was loyal, selfless, and humble, whereas Bhim was equally powerful, but sometimes Bhim used to have his bouts of ego. So there's a story in Mahabharat, the extreme right hand picture that you see. There's a story in Mahabharat where Bhim was moving and he suddenly saw an old monkey blocking his way, and Bhim was no nonsense person. He would not go into argument. And therefore Bhim says, "Hey, you monkey, you stand up and give me the way." And Hanuman looks back and says, "I'm too old. I am unable to move. Can you please move me aside?" Bhim says, "No, no, no. Why should I do that? You stand up because you don't know who I am." And Hanuman says that if you are so very powerful, please lift my tail. And Bhim sat down, squatted, and tried to move the tail of Hanuman, but he was not able to do that. He applied all his force, but he was not able to do that. He started perspiring, and he was not able to. Just a minute. He was not able to do that. And therefore, he bowed down to Hanuman and asked him who you are. And at that time, the union of two brothers happens, Hanuman and Bhim both. So that is Hanuman for us. Now, we have the Parakram, because this stanza also talks about uh, his power, Atulita Baladhama. So, what is Atulita Baladhama? Where does it show his power? When he goes to the Ashok Vatika after meeting Sita, he says, "Mata, mujhe bhukh lagi hai, mujhe khana hai." And Sita ji says that I am afraid that there are a lot of Rakshas who are guarding the Ashok Vatika and they may do harm to you. And Hanuman says, uh, I am not afraid of them if you just allow me to move into the Ashok Vatika. And then when Hanuman enters Ashok Vatika, he creates total utter chaos there. Because monkeys, they not only eat, but they also uproot the branches. Now here Hanuman uproots entire trees. So the Rakshas who were guarding, they first wanted to fight with Hanuman, but when they realized that this kapi, this monkey is so very powerful, they thought that he must be some Mayavi person, and therefore they go and complain to Ravan. This is how they complain in Sundarkand, that Nath ek ava kapi bhari. One monkey who is a super powerful monkey has come. Tahi Ashok Vatika Bijari. Entire Ashok Vatika he has destroyed. What does he do? Khayasi phala. He eats fruits. Aru Vitapa Upare. He also is uprooting trees. And Ratchaka Mardi Mardi Mahidare. He is killing a lot of Rakshas also. So he is a very, very powerful person, Hanumanji. Next, please. Then we have Mahavir Vikram Vajra Angi. You know about Bajrangi Bhaijan. But Bajrangi, the word Bajrangi comes from Vajra Angi. Mahabir Vikram Bajrangi Kumati Nivar Sumati Ke Sangi Kanchana Barana Biraja Suvesha Kanana Kundala Kunchita Kesha Kunchita Kesha. Hanumanji's hair is curly and he has earrings. Now we hear about earrings in the absence of Mahabharat. Also Karna had earrings from birth. And in Indian tradition, people do the piercing of the body. Now, piercing of the body is done with a logic that if you pierce the body with a particular metal, you are also touching that metal, and therefore the healing power of that metal is transferred to you. And because you are piercing your body, there is a hole through which the sunlight also enters. And therefore, Hanuman is also shown as having kundal and Kunchit Kesha. But we are curious to know why Hanuman is described as Vajra Angi. Because there are references in Greek mythology also. When Achilles was born, Thetis, Achilles' mother, wanted to make his body impenetrable. Because there was a prediction that Achilles would either have a very short and meaningful life, or he would have a very long but meaningless life. So at that time, Thetis picked up Achilles by his heels and dipped him in the river Styx, so that his body becomes impenetrable. But just because Thetis had to hold Achilles by his heels, Achilles' heels remain vulnerable. Likewise, there is a story in Mahabharat where Duryodhan is asked by Gandhari to come without any clothes because Gandhari had blindfolded herself, and therefore she had a power in her gaze. And she asks Duryodhana to come naked in front of him. But Krishna understands this can be unearthed. And therefore Krishna stops Duryodhana and says, what type of a person you are? You are going naked in front of your mother. So Duryodhana wears the cloth and therefore his thighs remain vulnerable. But here we find Hanuman, who is described as Vajrahangi. Nobody can destroy Hanuman. He is one of the Chiranjeevis. And we find the reference in Ashok Vatika when after doing the work, Hanuman goes and bows down to Sita. At that time, Sita gives him a blessing. This is the line that Sita tells him. Ajar Amara Guna Nidhi Sutta Ho. Sutta. Sita calls him like a son. And therefore says, you would be Ajar, you would be Amar, you would not die. And that is what we find here in this stanza, that he is Mahavir. Veer is somebody who is very brave. But Mahavir is somebody who is brave but uses the bravery judiciously. So even in Jain philosophy, we have Mahavir. Now Mahavir follows non-violence. So how can he be Mahavir? But he is Mahavir because he uses his intellect, uses his wisdom for the benevolence of people. Hanuman has never misused his power. He has power, but he has never misused his power. And therefore the first word is Mahavir. Then Vikram, he is always victorious. Bajrangi, Vajrangi, Kumati Nivar, because he is instrumental in removing the evil thoughts from our mind. And then Kanchana Bharana, his clothes are very good. I mean, Hanumanji, we want Hanumanji to look good because Hindu tradition has always believed in Sugun Upasana, and our God should look very good. And therefore, we dress Krishna in wonderful clothes. Only Lord Shiva is very simple in his clothes and everything. Here it is mentioned Kanchan means the Suvarna. Kanchan Bharana Viraj Suvesha Kanana Kundala Kunchita Kesha. Next, please. Then we find another reference, Hatha Vajra or Daja Viraje, Kandhe Mund Jane Musaje, Sankar means Shankar, Suvan, Kesari Nanda now, Hanumanji's father's name, come Kesari, Tej Pratap Mahajagavandan. Now, here it is mentioned that Hanumanji has in one hand Vajra and on other hand Dvaja. Now, this Dvaja or flag is very important because we know in Mahabharat, Hanuman sits over the chariot of Arjun. So Arjun's Ratha is having Hanuman, is Hanuman Dvaja is there. And likewise we see Ganapati, the vehicle of Ganapati is Mushak. Now it is not possible. How can a elephant ride Mushak? So the story means that Ganapati's chariot has Mushaka Dvaja. Likewise, Vishnu's chariot has Garuda Dvaja. Likewise, Kartikeya's chariot has Mayura Dvaja. And likewise, Hanuman has in his hand Dvaja or flag in the worship of Vishnu. And therefore, here dual forces are there. Vajra or thunderbolt is associated with Zeus in Greek mythology and is associated with Indra in the Hindu mythology. Now, we know that Indra is a Vedic god and Ram is a Puranic god. And therefore, the combination of Vedic god and Puranic god both is given here. And he is so very powerful, Kesari Nandan. And he has the ability to control Vayu or the breath. And there's a story in Ramayana, one version of story says that when Vibhishan hinted to Ram that Raman can only be killed if you shoot an arrow on the navel of Raman. That's where the Sanjeevani is there. But Ram was very powerful. He did not want to do that because hitting below the chest was not allowed. And therefore Ram would never do it. So it is believed that when Ram was shooting an arrow on the head of Ravan, Hanuman swallowed the air. And therefore, when he swallowed the arrow, instead of hitting Ravan's forehead or head, it went down, misdirected, or rather properly directed by Hanuman, and that's how Raman was killed. So Hanuman is all the time active on the battlefield, also aiding and helping Ram even on the battlefield. Next, please. Then, no, previous one. Laya Sanjeevan. No. You are moving very fast. Are?
Sir, actually, I'm going to the previous slide. Just a minute.
No problem. Take your time. You can go to Kanana Kundal Kunchit Kesha. Yes. Yes, next one. Yes, this one. Please keep this one. Make it full screen, please. Okay, so here the reference is given something that I was telling you. He is Vidyavan Guni Ati Chatur. Chatur, he is intelligent. And at the same time, Ram Kaj Kari Beko Atur, he is always eager to do the work for his master Ram. So here the proper administration and the role of the servant is also given. Prabhu Charita Suni Beko Rasiya, Ram Lakhan Sita Man Basiya. It is believed that I told you that whenever you do Ram Katha or when you are reciting the name of Ram, there's a tradition in India that a separate exclusive seat is offered to Hanman. Whether Hanman comes and sit over it visibly or not, but there's a seat that is dedicatedly given to Hanman. And there are many pictures that we see, and many videos are also there on YouTube where when Ram Katha is happening, actually monkey emerges and sits there and hears the story and also blesses the one who is singing in the glory of Lord Ram and Lord Hanuman. Also, there's this intelligence of Hanuman because the stanza says that Vidyavan Guni Chatur. Chatur means he is intelligent. So what is the intelligence that we get? Uh, we find that Hanuman, when he visits Lanka, at that time, he first sees that there are many palaces and many large, spacious houses. Now, how do I find out Sita from there? So he immediately thinks about this that Pura rakhware dekhi mahu kapi man keen bichar ati laghu roop dharo nisi nagar karo paisar. He enters in a very small form like mosquito, masaka saman rupa kapidari. And then when he enters and when he is moving from door to door, he finds one house different to the other houses. Now, how does he find out? Chatur, intelligent. He sees Rama Yudha Ankita Ati Shobha Barani na Jai. Navatulasi ka Brunda Taha Dekhi Harash Kapirai. He sees there is one house in which there's a plant, basil plant is there, tulsi plant is there. And he immediately realizes that this person here should be the very virtuous person, and that's how he meets Vibhishan. Also, he is so very intelligent that he has the wherewithal to seek advice from others, although he is very brave. So when I will take you back to the time where Jamvan asks Hanuman that you can do this. Hanuman, you can jump and you can cross the ocean. And immediately the moment he says, now this is the line in Sundarkand, Kavana so kaj kathina jagamahi. For you, what is impossible? You can do any miracle. Jo nahi tat tum pai. You can do anything. And then the moment he hears this, Ram kaj lagi tava avatara. Sunata hi bhayau parvatakara. He assumes giant form. Hanuman becomes giant like a mountain. And then he starts telling that I can do it. He says, Kanaka barana tanu tej viraja manahu Ar Girinakara Raja, Sinhanad Karibarahi Bara, thumps his chest and says, I can do it, I can do it. You just tell me, Jamvan, what I can do is Lidahi Nadahu Jalanidhi Para, Khara. I can cross this ocean in a minute and Sahita Sahaya Ramanahi Mari. I don't want even Ram or Lakshman to go and kill Ravan. I can do it alone. I can kill everybody. And Anahu Iha Trikutu Upari. I can bring an entire Lanka here. But before I do this, Jamavant, मैं पूछे हूँ तो ही. I'm asking you, उचित सिखावन दीजहु मोहि. Please give me proper advice. So the person who is intelligent, person who is chatur, person who is powerful, must also stay humble. And then when Hanuman goes into Ashok Vatika, he also realizes that immediately, supposing if a giant monkey jumps in front of Sita and Sita doesn't know who Hanuman is, she will get afraid. So he first assumes a Laghu, small rope, and sits in the branch of a tree and starts wondering as to what do I do? What do I do? How do I confront Sita? How do I tell her that I'm the messenger of Lord Ram? So there's a line in Sundarkand which says, Taru pallav mahu raha lukahi. Arahi, bichar karo ka bhai, what do I do? What do I do? And then when Ravan and others go away and Trijata tries to comfort Sita, at that time Hanuman starts Madhura Bachana. In a very soft voice, he starts singing the praise of Lord Ram. And Sita gets amazed. Where is this sound coming from? And then Hanuman drops Mudrika, the ring of Lord Ram, and then emerges. He gets down in a very small form, tiny form that does not make Sita afraid, but Sita is still afraid. So she immediately turns her back. And then Hanuman, to assure her, uses the line, Ram Doot mein Matu Janaki, please don't be afraid of me. I am Ram Doot. I'm a messenger of Lord Ram. Satya Shapata Karuna Nidhanaki. Now, this Shapata Karuna Nidhanaki was only known between Ram and Sita. It was a secret between husband and wife. That they only knew that this code word is used only between them, and therefore Sita gets assured that this person is really actually the messenger of Lord Ram. So Hanuman uses his intelligence many, many times. Next, please. Okay, then comes now the stories of his Vela. Sukshma Roop Dari Sihai Dikhawa, Bikat Roop Dari Lanka Jarawa, Bhima Roop Dari Asura Sahare, Ramchandra Ke Kaj Savare. Now, what does he do? He enters when he is going and crossing the ocean at that time. There is a Rakshasi, a demon, Sursa. And Sursa says, you enter my mouth because I got this ocean and I would not let you go. Hanuman says, I am right now on a mission. And as soon as I finish the mission, I assure you, Mata, I will come and enter your mouth. I am not worried about my death, but let me finish my work. Sursa says, I won't let you go like this. And then Hanuman says, okay, then open your mouth. And the moment Sursa opens the mouth, Hanuman becomes double size. And then Sursa opens the mouth double size, and Hanman also enlarges his body. So this happens. Tap tap. Shatayo jana tab ananakina. Sursa opens her mouth wide gap, 100 yojan, like this. Ati lagurupa daru Hanumana. Hanuman immediately transforms himself into a small form, enters and comes out. And Sursa realizes that this person is really very praiseworthy, and therefore she blesses Hanuman that you would be able to complete your task. There is also Simhika. Simhika catches the shadows. So she sees the shadow in the ocean and captures the shadow so that the bird or any other flying object will not be able to go to Lanka. So he catches Hanuman, she catches Hanman, and then Hanuman enters her mouth and then tears open her stomach, and that's how Hanuman kills Sinhika also. When Hanuman enters Lanka, at that time he meets another Rakshasi, Lankini. Lankini is the local protector of Lanka. And second picture, she stops Hanuman. And Hanuman doesn't do anything. He just gives her one punch. And one punch, she starts vomiting blood. And in the moment she starts vomiting blood, she immediately bowed down to Hanuman and said, I had heard that when a monkey would come and beat you, that would be the end time for Lanka. So we have many stories where Hanuman assumes, transforms his giant robe or small robe. When he enters Lanka, he assumes the form of a mosquito. And when then he sits in front of Sita, at that time Sita develops a doubt, ye chota sa vanar kya karega? And therefore she asks Hanuman as to, I doubt whether Ram would be able to win with the help of monkeys like you. So Sita asks Hanuman, hey Suta, kapi sab tumhe hi samana? Are all monkeys are small like you? Jatu dan ati batabalavana. You don't know the demons are very powerful. More radaya parama sandeha. I doubt whether Ram would be able to win like this or not. At that time, Sunikapi Pragat Kinan Nija Deha, Kanaka Budara Kara Sarira. He assumes a gigantic form. Hanuman assumes a gigantic form. And then Samar Bhayankar Ati Balabira. He is very fearsome. And he looks very vicaral. At that time, Sita ji realizes that Hanuman is very powerful, and then he immediately gets back to his small form and bows down to Sita and says, Sunumata Sakha Mruga Nahi Bala Buddhi Vishal Prabhu Pratapate Garudahi Khaya Parama Lagu Byal. Even with the blessing of God, even a weakest of the weak person can do miracles. So there are many references of Hanuman assuming this form on that form and killing a lot of demons. There is also story at the end of Ramayana of Hanuman killing Ahiravan. Ahiravan or Mahiravan, the top picture, Panchmukhi Hanuman. Now Ahiravan or Mahiravan had captured Ram and Lakshman in Patal Loka. So Hanuman goes there and Hanuman has to fight with his son, Makaradwaja. And he fights and he gets entered into the Patal Lok. And at that time, he starts fighting with Ahiravan. But Ahiravan is so very powerful that Hanuman is also not able to kill him. And therefore, at that time, he gets the hint that there are 5 lamps lighted in 5 directions. If one blows out all those 5 lamps together, then only Ahiravan would get killed. And therefore, Hanuman immediately assumes the 5 faces, Panchmukhi Hanuman, and blows up the lamps, and that's how Ahiravan is killed. So there are many references of Hanuman killing various demons in Ramayana. Next, please. लाय संजीवन लखन जियाय श्री रघुबीर हरषि उर लाय रघुपति किन्नी बहुत बड़ाई तुम मम प्रिय भरत ही समबाई. Now the statue that I have shown to you is a statue of Kal Nemi getting killed by Hanuman. On the left hand side you see the pillar of a temple in which the projection of Kal Nemi is killed. It is believed that when Lakshman fainted and Hanuman was asked to bring the medicine, I always fondly say that students, when they write the answer paper, except like from good old days when pen and paper exam used to happen, at that time students would not know what to write. So they would write anything and everything that comes to their mind. And they would then give it to the teacher, you find out your answer. So Hanuman, when he goes to fetch the medicine, he also does the same. He brings an entire mountain and gives it to Sushan and says, you find out your herb. But before Hanuman does that, Kalanemi was a demon, and Kalanemi wanted to obstruct Hanuman's path because it was believed that if Hanuman could not reach by sunrise, then Lakshman would die. So Kalanemi, in the form of a Brahmin, asks Hanuman to take a bath and have some food. Not to disrespect him, Hanuman goes to have a bath. At that time, the river is full with crocodile. And Hanuman starts fighting with crocodile and he kills crocodile, and from crocodile apsaras emerge and they caution Hanuman about Kalnemi. And therefore Hanuman kills Kalnemi. And then he brings an entire mountain. But when he is carrying the mountain on his hand, he is flying over Ayodhya. And at that time, Bharat sees Ram's brother. He sees in the sky and he feels that some demon has come. So he shoots an arrow. And Hanuman falls on ground. And then when he falls on ground, Hanuman utters the word Ram, Ram, and then Bharat immediately is taken by regret. And they know about one another, and Hanuman briefs Bharat about what has happened near Lanka. And it is believed that because time was running fast, Bharat says that you sit over my arrow, and I will shoot an arrow with such speed that immediately within fractions of second you would be able to reach where Lakshman and Ram is. So Hanuman sits over the arrow and Bharat shoots that arrow, and that's how Hanuman is able to save the life of Lakshman. And when he does that, Ram becomes so very happy that he says, you are as beloved to me as my brother Bharata. Tuma mama priya Bharata hi samabai. Now here the reference is also there to the portion of kheer that was distributed by the Kai from the Putra Kamishti Yajna to Anjana. So in a way, Hanuman, Ram, Bharat, Lakshman and Shatrughna are correlated as per the mythology. Next, please. Then we come across a beautiful stanza, Sahastra Badan, Tumaro Yash Gave, Askai Shripati. Now again the word Shri comes. Askai Shripati. Shripati is Lakshmi Pati. And therefore Ram, Askai Shripati Kantha Lagave. There are many pictures. If you type the word Hanuman in Google Images, you would find maximum pictures of Ram embracing Hanuman. So this picture is where Shripati Kantha Lagave embraces Hanuman out of pleasure. And then here the eulogy of Hanuman is given. Sanakadika, Brahmadi, Munisa, various saints, they sing your praise. Narada means Narada is singing your praise. Sharada means Saraswati is doing that. Ahisa. Ahisa means the god of the serpents, Vasuki. So he is also singing in your praise. And then comes a very beautiful word. Now here you need to understand. Yam Kuber, Dik Pal Jahate, Kabi ko bid kai sake kahate. Now who is Yama and Kuber? It is believed that Kuber and Ravan were brothers, half blood. Because Ravan's father and Kaikesi, Ravan's mother, had also a son, Kuber. And Kuber was equally powerful, like Ravan. Kuber is deformed in body, but he was very powerful and was very rich. And Ravan took envy of Kuber and drew him away, and also captured his Viman, Pushpak Viman. And therefore, Kuber went away from Lanka, and in totally opposite direction, Kuber established his own Lanka. This Lanka is known as Alkapuri. And Kuber is one of the Dikpal in the Hindu geography, the scripture geography, mythological geography. India, the word is attributed as Meru Parvat. And in that Jambudvipe, we are living in Jambudvipa, Bharat Khande, we are in Bharat Khanda. And there are 8 directions on the extreme right hand side. If you look at the picture, you will find 8 directions: north, east, west, south, northeast, northwest, north, south, etc. You would find 8 directions, and all these 8 directions are guarded by Dikpal. And then each of these Dikpal has Diggaja. They also have the elephant. So all of this put together are also singing in your praise. Next, please. Tum upakar sugriva hikina, Rama milaya rajpad dinna, Tumaro mantra vibhishana mana, Lankeshwar bhaya sabajag jana. It is commonly believed that Hanuman was instrumental in arranging the meet between Ram and Sugriv, and that's how he benefited Sugriv also, and that is how he benefited Ram also, because the entire Vanar Sena of Sugriv, who were following the command of Sugriv and Vali, the elder brother of Sugriv, they were at the disposal of Ram. And then Vibhishan also, the brother of Ravan, he also hears the counsel of Hanuman, and that's how he also gets the kingdom. So anybody who worships Hanuman gets what he or she wants. Next, please. Okay, now this one has a lot of stories. Yuga Sahastra Jo Janapar Banu, Lilyo Tahi Madur Phala Janu, Prabhu Mundrika Mele Mukhamahi, Jaldilangi De Ajarajanai, Durgam Kaj Jagat Ke Jay Jay Sugam Anugrah Tumare Tete. Now, what do we mean? There are a lot of rumors in Wikipedia and other pages that the first stanza indicates the distance from Earth to Sun. And people argue it mathematically, but it is not correct, because Yojan is distance, and Sahasra is a unit of time, and therefore this distance and time together do not match. It only indicates the speed at which Hanuman could fly. So we need not go into the wrong attribution of that India knew everything, and even before NASA came, we knew everything, and we had measured the distance from the Earth. But the story is simple. The story says that when Hanman was a kid, he saw the sun in the sky, and he thought this one is a fruit. So he immediately started flying towards it and wanted to swallow the entire sun. And at that time, Indra, to protect sun, threw the thunderbolt at Hanman. That's how his joke is disfigured. And then Hanuman releases son, and then Vayu, Pavandev, father of Hanman, gets angry that my son was hit, and therefore he stops breathing for all living beings, and the entire world gets suffocated, and they all start praying that, oh, you please release the air. And at that time, Vayu Dev releases the air, and a lot of gods come and bless Hanuman with various blessings. So this one is a reference to Hanuman flying in the sky and trying to swallow the sun god. Okay, then Prabhu Mudrika Melakuma, this one is very weird, isn't it? Because Rama Mudrika, Rama ring is considered to be pious and very precious. But then Hanuman puts it in his mouth. So some people say Hanuman did a dishonor to Ram. How can he put the ring in his mouth? Because when he would put ring in his mouth, it would be full of saliva. And then he gives the same ring to Sita. How does he do that? For monkeys, there is no logic. Monkeys taste everything and judge the quality of everything by putting it in their mouth. And therefore, we also have a reference to Ram eating the pre-tested berries by Shabari. So Lakshman doesn't like it to eat, but then Ram readily accepts. So we need to understand that Prabhu Mudrika is just a symbol. For us, the ring can be very valuable, but for Hanuman, only Ram matters. There is a story in Ramayana that post the battle of Lanka, when Hanuman, Ram, Lakshman, Sita had gone to Ayodhya. At that time, one day, Sita becomes very happy with the service of Hanuman, and she gifts him with the necklace of pearl. Hanuman immediately tears open the necklace of pearls, and the pearls are scattered here and there. And then Hanuman puts the pearl in his mouth and starts tasting it, and it doesn't look good. And therefore, people get angry and they say, "You are a monkey. You do not know how to respect. This was a precious necklace given to you by Sita." And Hanuman says, anything that does not have Ram, I am not interested. People said, then how do you prove? Hanuman tears open his stomach at the time chest, and then people are able to see the image of Ram and Sita there. So such loyal person. And then Durga Makaj Jagat ke Jai Jai. Hanuman can do anything and everything. When Hanuman enters Lanka, and when the servants of Ravan, they light his tail, so that to punish Hanuman. At that time, Hanuman lights up the entire Lanka. He spreads fire, wildfire. How does he do that? Kahu kapi Ravana palita Lanka, kehi bidi do ati banka. Hanuman, then when he comes back and Ram asks him that how did you do this? Hanuman very humbly says, Prabhu prasanna jana Hanumana, bola bachana bigata abhimana, sakha murg ke badi manusahi, sakha te sakha par jai, nadi sindhu hatak pura jara, nisichara ganabidi bipin ujara. It is very natural for me, Lord Ram. I am a monkey, and monkeys jump from one branch to another branch. And likewise, I jump from this palace to that palace and lighted entire Lanka. It was very simple. He doesn't show any ego. He has lighted the entire Lanka, destroyed Lanka. But look how he represents. Prabhu, ye to hamara natural karma hai. Monkeys keep on jumping, and that's how I did. And then he adds a line. So sabat tava pratap ragurai, nath namori kachu prabhutai. Isme meri koi power nahi hai. It is everything because of you. So Hanuman, Durga Makaj Jagat ke Jai Jai. For others, what is difficult is very simple for Hanuman. Also, we find a reference to the story. One of the stories says that after the bridge, Ram Setu was constructed, Ravan destroyed the connecting point of the bridge. So Hanuman spread across his tail from one side to another side, so that entire Vanar Sena, including Ram and Lakshman, would move from his tail to the other part. So whatever is difficult or impossible for others is very simple for Hanuman to perform. Also, there is a reference to the story of Arjun and Hanuman. Arjun, when he had gone to Rameshwaram, he saw the bridge. And when he saw the bridge, he was thinking, if Ram were such a good archer, why could he not construct a bridge with his arrow? Even I can do that. So he was just wondering at that time. Hanuman emerges as a monkey in front of him and says, "What are you thinking?" Arjun says, "If Ram were such a powerful person as I have heard, why did he not create a bridge with his arrow?" Hanuman says, "Can you do it?" Arjun says, "I can do it in a flash." So he said, "Yes, please do." So Arjun prepares the bridge with his arrow. And Hanuman says, "Let me climb over it." And Hanuman, the moment he puts one foot over that bridge, the entire bridge collapses. Krishna was standing there. He smiles and says, "Arjun, don't do it like this. Now do one thing. Shoot an arrow and recite Ram Ram along with it." And then Arjun shoots an arrow and says Ram, and then Ram, and then Ram, and he creates a temporary bridge. And Hanuman climbs over it and walks very successfully. And Arjun requests Hanuman at that time that during my battle, you please guard me by being on my chariot. So Hanuman is such a powerful person that whatever is very difficult for the rest of the world, he can do it very easily. Next, please. राम द्वारे तुम रखवारे होतन आज्ञा बिनु पैसारे सब सुख लहे तुम्हारी सरना तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना. This gives the assurance or comfort to the people. The first statue, the first picture over in the top is the statue of Hanuman, the idol of Hanuman in front of Lord Jagannath temple. And it is believed that Hanuman guards the temple of Lord Jagannath because the ocean would have a noise in the night, and the God should not have the disturbance in the night, and therefore Hanuman keeps on guarding. We have seen in India that outside the temple of Shankar, on both the sides there would be an idol of Ganapati and there would be an idol of Hanuman. Hanuman is Loka Bhogya for every caste and even for men and women. Hanuman is easily available as a god. And Hanman is also gifted with the ability to control Bhoot, Preta, Pishach, Brahma, Rakshas, Adi. And therefore we have famous Saranpur temple where people go and worship it. They feel that they have an affliction or they are troubled by the supernatural forces. So, Sab Sukh Lahe Tumari Sarna, if I surrender to you, why should I worry about anybody else? Apan Tej Samaro Api Tino Lok Aankh Se Kape. One shout of Hanuman, and then the entire world is shaken. Bhoot, Pret, Pishach, Nikat nahi aave. Mahabir jab naam sunave. Nase rog, hare sab pida. Because Hanuman is the god of, is the son of Vayu god. And Vayu, as per the medicine, also controls one of the part of our body, and therefore he can remove weaknesses and disease also. Japatan nirantar Hanumat Bira. Sankatate Hanuman chadave. Mankam bachan dhyan jo lave. If one has Hanuman in the heart, then Hanuman can save that person from any problem. सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा तिनके काज सकल तुम साजा और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे. Now this one is very important because in Hinduism people have believed that human beings are just like you and me. You know, oh Hanuman, please help me with my end semester paper of world classics. If I get O, I would come and offer you something. We want fruit. कृष्ण की फिलोसफी गीता में है, वो तो बाद में आती है. कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन. We don't believe in that, and therefore we want fruits immediately. And therefore in those stotras at the end phaladesh is given. Even in the stotra of Ganapati, vidyarthi labate vidyam, dhanarthi labate dhanam, putrarthi labate putram, moksharthi labate gatim. So we want fruit. What is the fruit that we are likely to get? Or manothat jo koi lave, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Whatever one wishes, they can get a soi amit jivan phal pave by the worship of Lord Hanuman. Next, please. Okay, we are approaching the end. Sadhu sant ke tum rakhware, asura nikandan ram dulare. Now, sadhu sant ke tum rakhware, there is a story in the Chinese mythology of Sun Wukong and Tan Sheng, then San Zheng, Satsang, in which Tan Sheng is accompanied by a giant monkey called Sun Wukong, and he also is like Hanuman, the monkey god, and he protects Sadhu Santa. And likewise in Ramayana also Hanuman protects the good people. Sadhu Santa ke tum rakhware, asur nikandan ram dulare, ashta siddhi nav nidhi. Now what are the ashta siddhi and nav nidhi? जानकी माता ने ये वरदान दिया है हनुमान जी को. क्या है अष्ट सिद्धि? अणिमा. Anima is assumed in small form. Masak Suman Rupa Kapidari. Hanuman can assume the small form of mosquito also. Mahima. giant form. Kanak Bhudarakara Sarira, Samar Bhayankara, Atibalavira. You can assume the form of a giant mountain also. Garima, heavy form. Angad demonstrates this. Angad goes in the court of Ravan and sits on his tail and sits atop Ravan. And Ravan gets angry, says, remove this monkey. And Angad says, try if you want. And the entire Rakshasana goes and tries to move Angad, but Angad is not moving at all. So this is known as Garima. When a person would become very weighty, Lakima is weightless, like a pida. Prapti is getting as per the desire. Prakamya, which is wish fulfillment. Ishitva means duplicating self. Number of Hanuman can emerge in front of you. Vashitva is dominating all. So these are the Ashta Siddhi. Janaki Mata Sita ji had given this blessing to Hanuman that Ashta Siddhi now Nidhi ke data. What are the now Nidhi? Nidhi is wealth. What are the now Nidhi? They are Mahapadma, Padma, Shankha, Makara, Kachap, Mukunda, Kunda, Nila, and Kharva. These are the Navnidhi. So Hanuman is attributed with Ashta Siddhi Navnidhi ke data, Asavar Deen Janaki Mata, Ram Rasayan Tumhare Pasa, Tada Raho Raghupati ke Dasa, Tumhare Bhajan Ram ko pave. If you worship Hanuman, not only you get the blessings of Ram, but you also get free from Shani and other Graha. It is believed that Ravan had captured Navagraha and he had locked them in his home. He was very powerful. Ravan was very powerful, Shiv Bhakta. And when Hanuman went and he lighted the entire Lanka, at that time Shani shouted for help. And Hanuman freed him. But when Hanuman freed him, Shani looked at Hanuman, and Shani's eyesight is instrumental for Sadesati's 7.5 years of affliction. And he looks at Hanuman and says, now I need to engulf you. Hanuman says, okay, how do you propose to do that? Shani says that when I enter into Sadasati phase, I sit on the head first. So Hanuman says, very well, sit on my head. So Shani sits on the head of Hanuman, and Hanuman assumes the giant form and starts putting the rocks over his head. And Shani gets suffocated and he cries for help, please free me, please free me. And Hanuman frees him, and Shani says, from now onwards, whosoever on Saturday will recite your mantra, I will not trouble that person. So Hanuman is gifted with the ability to remove the planetary influences also. Tumare bhajan Ram ko pave, janma janma ke dukh besrave, antakal raghuvarpur jaye, jahan janma ri bhakt kai, or devta chittan dare. Only it is believed Kalo Kali Vinayako and Kalo Hanumato. If you only recite Kali, Vinayak or Hanuman, then you are more than compensating for all your problems. He is immediately he can be immediately pleased then, because he is Chiranjeevi. He can hear right now to us also. Next, please. Okay, this one is the concluding part. Sankat kate mite sabapida. All my sankat, all my worldly, आदि दैविक, आदि भौतिक and आध्यात्मिक तीनों तरह की समस्या दूर हो जाए आपका नाम लेने से। जो सुमेरे हनुमत बलबीरा, जय जय जय, 3 बार जय आता है। हनुमान गुसाई, गुसाई इज माय मास्टर, कृपा करहु गुरुदेव की नाई, जो शतबार पाठ कर कोई. This one is a very important stanza because it is believed on Kali Chaudas day, the darkest night, just before the darkest night, Deepavali. If one recites Sundarkand, or if one recites Hanuman Chalisa 108 times, I repeat again, 108 times, then it is believed that whatever problem that person is passing through would get eliminated. I have been doing that since almost 20 years. And I find that this one helps when you are passing with a lot of issues. I'm not giving it a religious angle, but this one I have myself experienced. When you are passing through problem, jo shatabar paath kar koi, chhute hi bandi mahasu koi, jo yah padhe Hanuman Chalisa, whosoever, and you are all indirectly you are reading and listening to Hanuman Chalisa. Oh yes, this Sakhi Gaurisa. Now there's a promise given to you. It's not an ordinary promise. Oh, Siddhi Sakhi Gaurisa. Gaurisa is Parvati. So whosoever listens to Hanuman Chalisa or reads Hanuman Chalisa even once a day, then Hanumanji Tulsidas gives you that testimony. Why Siddhi Sakhi Gaurisa? I am giving you in the name of Shankar and Parvati that you would have all pleasures and everything happiness. So, Hai Siddhi Sakhi Gaurisa, Tulsi Das Sadari Chera, Kiji Nath Hriday Mahadhira. Last stanza. Next, please. This one is a concluding stanza. The exit. Pavana Tanaya Sankata Harana, Mangala Murati Roop, Ram Lakhan Sita Sahita, Hriday Basahu Sura Bhupa. He says that only that when Panchayatan, Ram Panchayatan is given at that time, Ram along with his brothers and Sita, Hanuman is invariably found with Ram. So the it is also believed that Hanuman, tumhare Ram duvare tumrak vare, without the permission of Hanuman, nobody can enter the kingdom of Ram. When Yamaraja Kal came to request Ram that your avatar kritya is over, you are also a mortal human being and therefore you have to die also. Ram knew that if Hanuman would be sitting outside, Hanuman would not let me die. Hanuman is Chiranjeevi, Ram is not. And therefore Ram throws his ring in a crack in the earth and asks Hanuman to go and fetch it. When Hanuman jumps inside, he realizes this one is not ending at all. So he goes entering inside and inside and inside. And when he enters Patal Lok, he finds a mountain of rings. And he starts wondering what is happening. And then he is told that every Satya, Treta, Dwapar, Kali, Ram would be born. And Ram has to also leave this earth. Even death is certain for Ram, death is certain for Krishna also. And therefore, every time Ram drops a ring, Hanuman comes down, and by that time, the entire world would have moved. And again, Hanuman goes up. Again, the same story of Ramayana starts, and Hanuman is again there worshipping Lord Ram. So, such is the power that we find in Hanuman Chalisa. There are many other stories also, but there is always a limitation of time, and I wanted to end on time. So this was my humble effort of telling you the story of Hanuman Chalisa. If you are more interested in knowing about Hanumanji, then you can read Sundarkand also. I believe those of you who are religiously inclined, and right now I'm not taking a class, so I have a freedom to say this because I have read pages of Old Testament also, and I believe that the promises given in the Old Testament are also true. And I also recite some of the stanzas of Quran, which were given to me by wise people. So all religion have something in common, something in benevolence for everybody. Whenever you have any fear, just turn to the mantra of Hanuman Chalisa, and I can assure you that all your worries would be removed. Such is the power of Lord Hanuman. Thank you.
So, I have a question.
Yes, please.
So, what are your personal experiences with Hanuman Chalisa?
Sorry.
What are your personal experiences with Hanuman Chalisa?
My personal experiences with Hanuman Chalisa?
Yeah.
I told you that somewhere my father told me years back, I would have been studying in standard 10 or something. There is one chopai in Ramayana. For public information, let me give it to you. There is one chopai in Ramayana which says that if you have weak academic score, and I was a very weak student, if Dr. Pradeep Joshi is hearing, Dr. Pradeep Joshi would bear testimony. He was my schoolmate, and I failed miserably in science and maths. I could never have moved on. I got 0 in physics, I got 0 in chemistry, I got 0 in maths 2. I failed in physics practical, I failed in chemistry, I only passed chemistry practical. Just biology theory and practical also I failed. So my school decided कि इसको छोड़ा कैसे जाए, नहीं तो ये यहाँ पर ही बैठा रहेगा. And he would be pressure on us. So my school, home school, asked me to leave the school. Dishonor. That you leave the school. Then only we will give you grace marks. So they gave me grace marks and I exited the school. But post that, my father told me at that time that there is a chopai, Guru Gruha Gaye Pathan Raghurai, Alap Kal Sab Vidya Pai. I repeat again. Guru Gruha Gaye Pathan Raghurai, Alp Kal Sab Vidya Pai. When you recite when you go on reciting this, your problem related to study would get over. And that's how my father also told me that it is good if you recite 108 Hanuman Chalisa on Kali Chaudas day. So my entire family, all my relatives, including my in-laws and my brothers-in-law, they all recite Hanuman Chalisa 108 times on Kali Chaudas day. It is a very long ritual. It requires almost 4 to 5 hours. But so far so good. I mean, praising Hanumanji. Tomorrow what would happen, I don't know. But COVID phase 1, COVID phase 2, COVID phase 3, Hanumanji has protected me. Because I come every day on the campus and meet a lot of people. In all possibility, I can catch COVID. So far, Hanumanji has looked on me favorably. Tomorrow, even if COVID comes, then it would also be his wish list. But it is a very powerful mantra. It gives you confidence. See, we say that what is Manavi, Manushya, Manavi, Mana, Manam eva Manushyanam. If our mind is powerful, we can be powerful. My body doesn't look you to be a very powerful person, but mind controls the body. And therefore, if you are confident with the blessings of God, then you can certainly achieve miracles. Yes, please, others.
So first of all, I actually want to thank you because I have been listening to reading Hanuman Chalisa from when I was a kid, and then listening to Sundarkand parts too. But nobody actually explained me what actually they meant. And today I got to know that they actually have such a deep meaning and such a connection to human intellectuality and the way of life. So actually, thank you, sir, for this amazing session.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Sakshar.
For adding to Hardik, I would like to first of all, I will thank you. It was a great session. We got to know very good things, great things. And I would also say that in regular days when we recite Hanuman Chalisa, while reciting we say many of the words in continuation. So the way you explained, the way you elaborated, we got to know that these are the actual words for that, and the meaning for that is this. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Nihar.
Sir, I would like to share something.
Yes, please.
So I've heard and read somewhere that when Trijata means everything got over in Ramayana, Trijata said that okay, I have taken care of Sita since long. So what will I get? So she said that Bhagwan Ram said, okay, your 13 men will ruling India during the end of the Kali. She said, yeah.
Yes. Trijata was a very benevolent and friend in need to Sita. But for her, Sita would not have been able to even survive in Ashok Vatika. Now, we had taken SL students to Sri Lanka tour, IEP, International Exposure Program. And they knew me, my stories and my fascination with Hanuman Chalisa. So they sent me the photographs of Ashok Vatika. I have never been to Sri Lanka. One day I want to go there. But Trijata also had predicted to other Rakshasas that I have heard the story that, monkey would enter Lanka, and monkey, if you dare touch Sita, then Sita would be instrumental for the destruction of everybody. And because she was a Rakshasi herself, other Rakshasis heard her and believed her. And that's how they dispersed.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Yes.
Yes, sir. So, thank you.
हाँ मैम बोलिए.
जी sir. Namaste. First of all, I would thank Vidhi to remind me that it is Nigam sir's lecture, and Urmi ma'am, you would be very happy to hear him. So thank you, Nidhi, for giving me this opportunity to be here and listening to Nigam sir on Hanuman Chalisa on this pious day itself is a satsang. Right, and what we have understood is ek ghadi आधी में पुनि आज तुलसी संगत संत की कटे कोटि अपराध. So हमारे तो अपराध वैसे ही कट गए. And sir, it's really a blessing to have you here and to hear about Hanuman Chalisa on this pious day. आज ही पता चला that Satya Shapath Karuna Nidhan Ki was a code language between.
It was a coded language.
Yeah, so this is for the first time that I have come to know.
Married husbands and wives, when we have children in home, we have to use sometimes code word because we want to keep certain things secret from our children. So even my wife and I share the code language, and likewise Ramji and Sita ji also had a code language. So how does Sita trust Hanuman? So Hanuman was taught that if Sita would doubt that you are actually my messenger, then just utter this line, Satya Sapata Karuna Nitanti. And Sita ji also gives a code word. When Hanuman goes from Sita to Ram back, at that time Sita says, you remind Ram of the son of Indra who had troubled me. This incident was only known by Ram. So Ram actually realizes, Chudamani to theek hai, but just because Hanuman tells the story that Sita Mata had asked me to remind you the story of Indra's son who troubled Sita Mata, and then Ram immediately realizes that yes, he has accomplished the mission.
Sir, listening about all these things, what I am reminded of is Idam Rahasyam Paramam Chapavanam. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Those of you who are not belonging to PDU and specially came to oblige me, thank you very much. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you so much, sir, for taking time out from your busy schedule. It was a very informative as well as a very engrossing session, and we hope to see you again at one of our forthcoming events. And we would also like to thank Aditya sir and Urmi ma'am for joining our session. We are very glad. And we'd also like to thank OCL and SNC as well as the audience members that took part and interacted.
Sir, please carry such sessions. Would love to be part of it, sir. Very enlightening us. Please. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
We would like to remind you that the feedback form is located in the chat box. Follow Mithak Shaastra on social media for information on new and interesting events. In the chat box, you will find a link to the same. Finally, we would like to everyone to switch on their camera so we can take a snapshot. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, everyone.